There was a new Tron movie last year, which was a little surprising since the previous attempt to resurrect the cult classic didn't set the world on fire. But hey, that one never had Jared Leto. Okay, I'm being cynical, but we'll give it a shot, so join us as we discuss Tron Ares. Welcome everyone to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Peter, and joining me as always is David.
I come in peace.
This is a science fiction movie podcast. We get together, we talk about a sci-fi movie. It's that simple. And on today's episode, we are catching up with a movie that came out last year, which, I mean, we could have done when it was in theaters, I think, but there was some unimportant event that got in the way, I think.
Yeah. I can't think of anything that majorly happened there.
Yeah.
I think I was. Yeah. No, that's the weekend that I was really determined to get out to the new gas station opening nearby. That's what that was. Oh, and I got married.
Yeah, you got married. I was wondering if I was misremembering that there. I'm like, is he getting the joke I'm trying to make, or am I actually barking up the wrong tree?
Nope. I got you.
Yeah, so it was on the schedule to be done, and then David said, I'm getting married that week, and I said, well, we're not going to do it a week late. We'll just wait until later. We'll just wait until it's out.
It was the greatest gift that Pete's ever given for my wedding.
Yes, that was the wedding gift for the. So yes, but Tron Ares, the third Tron movie, on Ace. Previously, we have reviewed the original Tron and Tron Legacy.
Yes,
that sounds right. And that was a while ago, though. That was before David even joined the show. That was way predating that. But so. Hey, these Tron movies always underperform. They never make enough money back, but they keep trying anyway. Somehow we got a third one, and their genius idea to make this one click, Jared Leto. That was their plan. So here we are.
What a plan. What a magnificent plan.
So we will start spoiler free, as we always do. We'll give you more info, get into the spoilers, and if you're enjoying the show on YouTube, hit the like button, helps us out a bunch if you do, and of course you can support everything over at Patreon and get some bonuses, but I'll tell you more about that at the end of the show. So, the sales pitch for Tron Ares is basically, what if in this one, the digital world comes into the real world, rather than a human get into the digital world, which is what the previous two were.
Yeah. You're right.
Which is a fine concept. There's nothing wrong on paper with that concept. Absolutely nothing.
No. On paper, not at all. But like the moment that we progressed to first trailers, I was immediately like, oh, you were completely uninspired.
So we got other people in this, of course, which we'll get to. And obviously we get the big, we have to have a cameo from Jeff Bridges, at least since he's the mainstay of the franchise. But we'll get into everything. I guess before we answer if we like this one or not, I suppose we should briefly sum up our feelings on the previous two movies, given that people might not know the answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think the original Tron was boring as sin. I think I'm sure visually at the time it was like, wow, cool, look at all that stuff. But nowadays, the graphics have gone by the wayside and it's just boring as sin. I think Legacy was fun. I do think that it was very light on story. I don't think that it was super fleshed out or whatever, but it had so much style and the soundtrack was so good that it could coast off of that no problem. So Legacy is definitely a step up in my mind, but it's still not high art by any means.
Yeah, I don't differ too much. I would say that I still kind of appreciate the visual style of the original Tron. There's kind of a charm to them pulling it off, and because there is some actual very early CG, but a lot of it isn't. A lot of it is weird, interesting, different techniques that they did to get this weird look to it. But yeah, the actual movie's pretty damn boring. When I finally saw it, I assumed it was going to be because you hear about Tron, you see the poster here or there, but I never saw it growing up. And when I finally tracked it down and I watched Tron, I was like, I'm bored to tears. This is dull. The second movie is, I guess, a little better, but it's not. It's very hollow, right? It's like the music was kind of good. There's some pretty visuals here or there, but by and large, I do think transitioning from the more practical and like old school techniques to get a lot of the visuals to just obviously everything was CG in that one.
Yeah.
Just made a lot of the charm go away, even though technically, like, it's almost too slick, right? It's too slick. But kind of hollow though ultimately, and just kind of like, you know, it was directed by the same guy I think who did Oblivion, and I felt very similar in terms of like I was like, okay, I can say I feel some style here, but ultimately it's kind of hollow, and that's exactly how I felt about Oblivion. And then Tron Ares, we're here today. So neither of us are particularly big fans of Tron as a series, lukewarm at best, but hey, maybe this is the one that'll turn us around. David, what did you think of Tron Ares?
Oh boy, Pete. I hate this goddamn movie. Look, all right, so I that might be a bit harsh, but you can put it on the poster. I don't care. I think that in order, the soundtrack done by Nine Inch Nails, pretty much good throughout. I think maybe just personal taste wise, I still kind of prefer Daft Punk more, but like for the vibe they were going for, Nine Inch Nails was totally the right choice. Totally nailed it. Visually, it's okay. It's good. I still kind of prefer Legacy's visuals more, and that's saying something considering I agree with like it's way too slicked up and all that stuff. There's aspects of this from like a special effects standpoint that I think are, of course, modern day blowing it out of the water, but like just for style, just for the vibe of it, I kind of prefer Legacy's vibe more. And then you get to story and characters, to which I say, what story and characters? Because I could not give less of a shit about any of the people in this movie if they tried to make me. Like, all of them, every single one of them completely failed from the bottom up to make me care about a single aspect of them. That's protagonists, antagonists, people who just like standing in the background. In fact, I probably cared about them equally than I did the protagonist, quote unquote, of this movie. So, not great. Not a fun time for me.
Well, that was a very impassioned
It was.
salvo to open with, I guess.
I've been stewing on it for 2 hours.
I have not. I finished the movie about 2 minutes before I came on this call to talk to you. I left it to the last possible minute, and I even messaged David, oh, I guess I need to go watch Tron Ares now if I want to be done in time.
And I told you to bring caffeine because you're going to need it.
Oh, I was bored. I was so bored throughout this. I think hate's a strong word. I don't think I could hate this just because it's so inoffensively bland in every single way it does everything that I can't hate it. It doesn't do anything offensive. It's just like, it's kind of touching on the story themes that obviously it's kind of playing with, because you've got a digital character, so basically a robot saying, oh, I want to live, I want to be a real boy. Like, it's definitely, it's basically that. And it's touching on those things, okay, but not set up enough to, like you were alluding to, make you care about that character, make you care about the other characters that it introduces, or Gillian Anderson, poor Gillian Anderson in this movie is just there to constantly come in and say to the villain, what have you done? What have you done? Yeah. Are you serious? And that's it. That's her entire character. She comes in and acts shocked that her evil son has done evil thing, even though she may also be evil herself, but she's also just aghast at all the decisions she's making.
She's a capitalist, Pete. That's totally different.
Evil. You heard me.
Yeah.
So you got that. You got like just these thin characters. And I think the biggest thing that was maybe getting to me as I was watching this, and it was very clear as it was going on, is that like the people making this at least are pretending, if not actually have, such a reverence for everything that is, quote unquote, iconic from Tron.
Yeah. And
it's so weird because like, it rubs me the wrong way sometimes when I watch, say, a modern Star Wars movie, because I'm like, oh my, like they're jerking off, like, or the new Ghostbusters movies. Oh my god, the proton packs! Everyone has to stop and ooh and the proton packs, and oh, the lights blinking. Like, it's that kind of thing. But this is like a special level because I'm like, it's Tron. these things, like, none of these things. The light cycle is not as iconic as a lightsaber. The light cycle is not as iconic as the Ecto-1. The light cycle is not as iconic as a insert thing from any other franchise that was actually successful in its prime.
I'll go ahead and say the light cycle is probably as iconic as the dangling dice on the Millennium Falcon. I think it's on par with that.
I actually think the light cycle might win that fight, to be honest, because at least I remember the light cycle from the original Tron.
True.
So I just, there's this idea of every time we're showing off one of these things where we have to all just stop and watch as the 3D printer builds the thing, and like, oh, aren't we enjoying just, it's like, don't get me wrong, there is sometimes an acceptable level of this, right? But the one that I actually quite like is a very old example, but in the original Star Trek movie, the motion picture, the Journey to the Enterprise, where it just plays Jerry Goldsmith's score as they slowly go up towards it in a little shuttle, and it comes around and it's like da na 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 na, and it does the whole thing. It is absolutely masturbatory, right? It absolutely is. Yeah. But one, I like the music, and two, there was something there to that, because on a meta level, it's like, this was something that was only in a cheap TV show, and now it's a major motion picture. We're going to show off just how much better this is, because we're a movie now. But the rub here is, one, this was already in movies, and two, because everything's just switched to CG only, there's nothing impressive about this. I'm not sitting going, oh my god, the light cycles look so realistic now, I can't believe myself.
That's kind of where I was coming down from it too, was I was thinking, okay, Tron, when it was created, was this technical marvel. It was this idea of like, look what we managed to do. Computer generated graphics, it's the future. Tron Legacy was nowhere near that, but it was also, it was still something. Like, there was still a level to it.
It was horrible de-aging tech.
True.
Remember that? That was the future.
But at the very least, they were trying it. They were saying like, hey, check out this new technology we're doing. We're going to see if it works. Didn't at the time, but fair enough. Mm-hmm. I can't point to anything in this movie that feels like it's trying something new. Every single thing feels like it's like, nah, Tron is no longer for the new tech stuff. It's just for Jared Leto to get up on screen and masturbate for a while. It's
just an IP. We're just pumping out another one in the hopes that this is the one that sticks and actually makes a profit. And, you know, I mean, maybe technically made a profit, but none of these have been successful.
It did not.
Yeah,
it did not. Look, unless it had some very creative Hollywood accounting, it is a bomb. Oh, no doubt.
Creative Hollywood accounting always makes it look like they didn't make money because they don't want to pay actors and other people like the back end percentages for profits. Creative accounting's always making them look like they've made less, because we're poor Hollywood companies and studios. We don't make money. We can't pay anyone. See, that's what the creative accountant's for.
How are we supposed to pay James Cameron again if we have to actually pay our actors?
So yeah, I can't say I gave a shit throughout this, and I was kind of in a bit of a half daze at certain points, just kind of trying to stay awake, and I felt nothing, and it ended, and I was like, well, I've seen worse movies for sure, right? It's not like you know what? This is like the lightest possible praise I can give it. It's better than, say, a Rebel Moon.
Oh yeah.
I'll give it that.
That's look, I open this with the like, I hate this movie, but I do agree. That's strong. I don't stand by that statement. It's so bland and boring for a Tron movie, especially for this thing that's supposed to literally be just jingling keys in front of you the whole time.
That is the exact phrase I was thinking. Like, every time they were showing like anything that had those highlights, right? You know, the red or blue highlights, every single time, or there's a light beam behind a cycle or a sword, because there's a fight actually at one point where there's two people with either swords or the little disc things, and there's a trail of the lights for every sort of swipe, and all I could think during that was, this is the cinematic equivalent of, look at the shiny shiny, look at the shiny shiny.
God, it was so annoying. And that's the other bit of like, oh, we're going back to all these things and we're being so reverent and masturbatory towards the old product and whatnot.
Yeah.
It also is the idea of like, okay, well, in the original, the light cycles had that little trail behind them, the wall thing. What if everything did that? What if that one thing that you remember from Tron, everything was that thing? And it just opens up a whole Pandora's box of how the hell does that make any sense?
Yep. And let's not even get into the little the can of worms that is just because something exists in the digital world doesn't mean it would also function in the real world, because the physics of some of these things that just get 3D printed, I'm like, oh, so this giant pi symbol can just fly in the real world, I guess.
Yeah. What's fueling it? What's got any sort of thruster or anything like that? Screw you, don't think about it.
Yeah, well, these 3D printers can also make edible oranges, so clearly it just makes anything, and it'll just be the actual thing they wanted to make. Anyway, like, this is stuff to get into. We're about to jump into spoilers, because I don't want to hold back, but...
that's fine. There is one thing I do want to bring up right up top, though.
Yes.
This was made in 2025, and this is just my theory. This is just my guess here. All of the trailers were just showing the big action scenes. Like, they didn't say anything about, like, what the plot is, because there was none, but also because they, like, I think, and this is just me, when they were producing this movie was when there was the real big turnaround of, like, no, screw AI. Like, we're all done with AI. And this whole movie is based around the idea of, but what if AI want to be a real boy? And, like, I have to assume that they were like, we can't market off of the AI being... like the protagonist, more or less. We can't do that, so we just have to show big things in the sky fighting each other.
Which is so stupid, because like the robot who starts to sort of appreciate life is a good story, and it can still be good, because it's not necessarily what we're talking about when we talk about what real life AI is. But maybe just avoid the phrase AI from this point going forward, because it's polluted, right? It's polluted terminology now, even though in the past it was perfectly fine to say that. Because it's the literal definition. Artificial intelligence was a perfectly fine phrase to use for like these types of sci-fis in the past. But here we are, we've made it toxic. We don't want to talk about AI because now everyone just thinks of LLMs and the planet being destroyed and everything else going on. So we're here, and we have to put up with this shit. And none of this like, in a weird way, it's not really the movie's fault. That part, it's just kind of a funny, like, tangential thing, because the movie's still bland and boring anyways. That doesn't really affect it one way or the other from our perspective. No.
It just reminds me of I forget what year it was. It's at least a decade old now. They came out with like a movie about the creation of the FIFA like soccer league, and then like the day before it released, there was this major scandal of corruption amongst all the FIFA people. Meanwhile, the movie was just pumping them up, being like, these visionaries. It's the same, obviously it's a much shorter time scale with the FIFA stuff, but it's the same sort of thing where I feel like when they started production on this, when they were in pre-production, they were like, okay, we're looking at the world and AI is like kind of this up and coming thing. Let's make a movie that's going to be talking about that. And then as soon as they got to post, they're like, oh no, we've made mistakes.
Yeah. The people who specifically like movies, i.e. art, are the ones who are probably the most against AI. Oops.
Yep. I have to assume somewhere in production in the middle of this was the SAG-AFTRA strike, right?
Oh, I'd have to look at the timeline of when this was shooting and so on and so on. But yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. Although sometimes they do it the other way around. Sometimes like the what's the word I'm looking for? The scandal will happen, right? The scandal stuff will happen, and then they'll make the movie much years later in spite of the scandal, and they'll call it Michael. That was an example of that way around. And they'll still pump up the person in the movie.
Yeah. I have an aunt that like does not watch this. I don't know what the term is of aunt and in-law like across that border, but
aunt-in-law, I guess. So
I've never heard that said.
No, have I? But I mean, technically, if you put the two phrases together, that's what you get.
I've seen her maybe like 3 or 4 times since Michael came out, and every single time she's like, "Have you seen Michael yet?" And I'm like, "Not yet. I'll get to it."
Oh dear. So anyway, that's the spoilers then, shall we? Obviously, we don't recommend it. Maybe if you're a Tron diehard who actually is going to geek out at all the stuff that's on screen, but even then, I don't know.
I feel like you would. There was an animated series that I know took from the plot of Legacy. Like it was a spin-off / follow-up to Legacy. I have to assume if you're a Tron diehard, you're into that. This movie ignores that. It's just doing its own thing. Screw you.
Yeah. Which actually, I was trying to remember what happened in Legacy as I was watching this, because I was trying to kind of piece together some things. And I guess it kind of carries on some ideas that I was questioning at the end of Tron Legacy, although it still feels like it's not quite linking up with it. But we'll get to that.
There's one bit that I remember from Tron Legacy, which is at the beginning, they introduced a son of Dillinger, a son of the villain from the first guy, who was Cillian Murphy, who shows up just for like 2 minutes at the beginning of Legacy.
Oh, I don't remember.
And it was like, oh, hey, that guy, I wonder what he's going to be doing in the sequel.
My memory of those movies was so bad that they kept saying the name Dillinger, and I'm like, I'm going to assume there was a Dillinger in Tron, but I don't remember who that is.
Yeah, he was the villain from the very first movie.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
He was the capitalist.
Fair enough. That makes a lot of sense. Anyway, so spoilers here. From this point on for Tron Ares, you've been warned, just so I don't have to worry about ranting into bad territory. Yes. So okay, so the end of Tron Legacy, if I recall, the big thing that I remember ranting about, as best as I can remember, is that the main character, who in this movie the only explanation for his absence is he mysteriously disappeared some years ago, and that's it. That's all you get.
Oh, are you talking Daddy Flynn?
No, Son Flynn.
Son Flynn? Yeah, no, he just got bored and just pissed off from the company. He just like,
left.
Yeah, bye.
Yeah. He's just away. That's the explanation you get. But at the end of Tron Legacy, if I recall correctly, he brought his digital girlfriend into the real world. And I remember ranting and saying, what is she made of? What matter is she made of? Because at least when he went into the digital world, all his matter went somewhere, so presumably he just got it all back when he came back out. What actual physical material is she made up of? And this movie kind of gets into that to an extent, although the whole plot this entire movie's built around, the MacGuffin they all want, is because, people are making these digital 3D printer outs of like both devices and programs who are effectively just people. They only last for 29 minutes and then they just fall apart, they disintegrate. And the entire MacGuffin is the secret Helix code, the permanence code that Flynn has somewhere hidden that'll make it permanent, because that's what it's called. It's the permanence code. By the way, that title's stupid. Calling it the permanence code is like, that's up there with unobtainium. And I love my boy Jimmy C. I love the Avatar movies. I genuinely do. But unobtainium is a stupid name. Permanence code is worse.
I like to imagine that the permanence code is literally just a single line that says decay after 29 minutes equals true. And you just turn it to false. Like, that's it. Like, it's nothing more complicated than that. But no, that's the thing about the Tron universe, that like you immediately have to throw away any understanding of computer science that you have. Yeah. Because none of it maps to anything. They're looking at this code and they're like, that looks like a double helix. What does? What, the text? Does the text look like a double helix? I don't understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, that was one of my problems when I watched the first Tron, is that, I was watching that in my early 20s, maybe mid-20s, something like that. But, I'm watching that. I've been using a computer for, like, way over a decade, at least by that point. Like, everything in that movie, I'm like, okay, I just have to accept that this is just all a bunch of fantasy stuff, that people who wrote the script didn't really know computers, and they just sort of, what if there was a world inside your computer, and it was all these people running around doing all this stuff. So it's weird. In the year 2026, although 2025 when this came out, to watch someone say, I'm hacking into something, and then it cuts inside the digital world, and a little like squadron of like hacker men are climbing into the tower that represents the server of the rival company, and it's like an espionage mission, and I'm like, is he hacking, or is he told a video game character to go break in somewhere for him? Which is it, movie? Because I don't understand how those two things marry together.
You're right, and that one scene kind of breaks everything for me. But I do appreciate the fact that if you look at it through the modern day lens, the idea that like you're able to interface with an AI agent and like have them talk back to you, that's the one thing that actually is working here. But then, like, yes, the scene saying, oh, I'm hacking into NCOM, tap, tap, tap. But then we see, like, it's this heist mission going on inside the grid. Doesn't make a damn lick of sense, especially because later on in the movie, they show some other characters trying to hack into Dillinger stuff, and they don't have any little men hopping around in the systems. They're just hacking as normal people do.
Yep. So you have to just throw anything you know about how computers work or how electronics work and any of that stuff out the window and just go with the magic that this movie is saying is how it functions and just go with it.
I especially love the fact that it's like, okay, we have 3D printers. That's the thing that exists now. And theoretically, they could have used something like that. But wait a minute, hold on. The first movie was lasers. So these are laser 3D printers. They're all having to use lasers.
And more specifically, though, they are magic. Because this is why I'm saying I don't want to call them 3D printers exactly, because in my head I was calling them digital printers, because they are straight up creating matter out of nothing. They're not being fueled with like, here's like the raw material that they're going to use to turn into things. It just create things out of light, like hard constructs, right? It's a holodeck style thing.
I was so fine with it being, because I thought, okay, well, maybe there is something in the background. Maybe they do have just a giant tub of carbon that like is able to make itself into whatever. And the very first thing they show is
primordial ooze.
Yeah, it's a big like tank thing. And they're like, all right, we made a tank. That's what we can make with this. We can pull that stuff out from 3D world. I'm like, all right, cool. That makes sense. And then they're like, and here's the pilot. And just fully human Jared Leto steps out. And I'm like, oh, it's magic. Okay, got it. You can go on, continue.
Well, yeah, but to be fair, it does kind of link up with the fact that in the last movie, the laser just produced Olivia Wilde, which I did not remember it was her that was the girlfriend until like a little thing at the very end of this movie that showed a photo of her, and I'm like, oh yeah, Olivia Wilde was the digital girlfriend last time.
Yeah, which... I mean, we'll just say the plot of the movie, the whole thing is the permanence code is the whole like 29 minutes. No matter what, anyone who's made is immediately decays after 29 minutes. How the hell did she dodge the 29-minute thing?
That was exactly why I thought of it, because I'm like, wait, didn't someone exist like this last time? And I guess she survived. Yep. And the funny thing is, and I know I'm jumping to the ending, but at the end of the movie, Jared Leto is a real boy, right? He's got the permanence code, and the other main character, which we'll get to her in a minute, she's let him live, and he goes just traveling to experience the world. He's doing that, and we see him basically suggest, oh, I wonder if there's anyone else out there like me. And he's holding a photo of Olivia Wilde, and he gets on his bike as if he's looking for her, like, oh, I want to find the other one like me. And I'm like, okay, so it weirdly turns Olivia Wilde's character from the end of the last one into almost like the character from Blade Runner. Did she like survive or not? And like, is she still out there? Did she die in Baby Flynn's arms? And if Jared Leto does find her, is he hoping it could be a romance because they're two of the same kind? Because I'm pretty sure that Baby Flynn's in love with her, because like he had the whole thing going with her.
I don't think it's going to be a romance, but at the very least it'll be some camaraderie of like, oh, let's learn about this world together, blah blah blah. What I need to see, I need someone to do this, is to take the ending scene with like the soft music. I remember the final shot of Tron Legacy is they're on a motorcycle, they're riding out of town, and it zooms in on Olivia Wilde sitting on the back of the seat of whoever the Baby Flynn is, holding his back, and then like fade out. And I want someone to recut it where it just hits the 29 minutes.
She just
like, I need to see it.
But that's the weird thing, though, is that if Flynn already has this permanence code buried somewhere, he already knew about the 29-minute limit that would happen if you didn't have it. So he's put in like a flaw almost to what everyone else has sort of developed from.
And that's the thing. Flynn is Jesus. Okay, like that's the change that has been in Tron Legacy. He already had a little bit of a Messiah thing inside the grid, but like. Now, even outside the grid, anytime anyone talks about Flynn, it's always this thing of like, Flynn, this guy who designed 2 video games and also Messiah to the digital revolution, he said this thing about the grid once, and we all have to treat that as canon of God.
Yeah, and to go back to the start, we start off with more fun de-aging, and it's kind of like filtered on like a TV, as if it's like an old TV interview of him talking about his like work. But like it's the movement more than anything. The way it moves and the lip syncs with the audio just looks so unnatural. It's like, this is digital, tomfoolery here. I almost said a swear word that I'm trying not to say on YouTube.
I've been fighting it so much. You have no idea.
So there's an exposition dump of like news reports this, and it tries to like just info dump you on like all these other new characters of like, okay, these 2 sisters took over Flynn's company, or the company that he worked with, which was
Do you mind if I just take the lead real quick?
Go for it. Yeah, knock yourself out.
All right. You got 2 companies. You got Dillinger Systems and you got Encom. Encom are the good guys. Dillinger Systems are the bad guys. Dillinger, I guess at some point they all worked together. You had two sisters named the Kim sisters, one of which was like the lead, was in charge, super genius. Younger sister was also around. Then you had Evan Peters over at Dillinger Systems, who is the grandson of the original Dillinger guy. What happened to Cillian Murphy? He died. So at some point in the middle of all this, baby Flynn from Tron Legacy disappears. The sisters take hold of the company. They lead into this whole new era and blah, blah, blah. They release another video game, which apparently is the best-selling video game of all time.
I have a question. So Gillian Anderson is the mother of Evan Peters' character, who's the current Dillinger. Is this suggesting that her husband was Cillian Murphy? And that like he's their son and he's just not around anymore? Is that what we're doing here?
You'd have to get clarification as to whether or not her maiden name was Dillinger. Because either she's a daughter that took hold after Cillian Murphy, who, to be clear, Cillian Murphy worked over at Encom, so he wasn't even at Dillinger Systems. I don't know what the hell's going on with that.
Well, I mean, it's possible she could be the sister of Cillian Murphy's character, an older sister.
Entirely true. And then Evan Peters would be the next in line. Fair enough. Okay. But either way, baby Flynn disappears, sisters take over, they release a video game. Older sister dies. Younger sister kind of takes her place.
No. Other way around. Younger sister is the one who dies of cancer.
Oh, younger sister?
Yeah.
Okay.
The main character is the main character is the older sister. And the reason why I remember that is because at one point, Ares, Jared Leto, says, hey, I've looked into all your feelings about your sister, and she was more successful and more ambitious than you. And that especially hurt because she's the younger sister. So you were competitive, blah, blah, blah.
Once Jared Leto started talking, I kind of just heard white noise for a while there.
So the younger sister was the one who was kind of more ambitious, or at least cared more about the passion of the tech and kind of worshipped Flynn. So the movie actually starts with the main character, Eve, who's Greta Lee, who you might know from Past Lives, which is a great movie. She also had a small part in House of Dynamite, which we did over in Collector's Cut.
Yes.
You know, again, there was like a million people in that movie, so it was like blinking, you'll miss it like one scene.
Yeah.
But
I think modern audience, she's apparently the antagonist in Toy Story 5. Voice of.
The voice of, the tablet. Yes. So she, like, the movie starts off with her, like, finding, like, a secret Flynn base that's in, like, a snowy mountain, and it has old computers with floppy disks, and they're looking for the permanence code. And I'm like, okay, this movie's already stupid. The fact that he's hidden, like, a MacGuffin like this here is already silly, but okay, whatever, we'll roll with it. Meanwhile, Evan Peters, who's our antagonist, until he's kind of like, it passes the torch to the digital antagonist, but whatever, we'll get to that later. Yeah. He is like showing off the investors, the board, whoever, the potential buyers, the tech of this digital printing, where he prints like a digital tank, and then out comes Jared Leto as the digital person who's like going to run it. And he's like, hey, look how fancy this is. And there's a little moment where Jared Leto's like, makes a little joke about the rain and, like, you know, have you got your umbrella? And he also kind of like, his eyes perk up a little bit when Evan Peters is saying, and if this one somehow dies, I'll just make another one. He's expendable. You can just sort of see a little glimmer in his eye of like, wait, do I care about my life? Am I upset by this?
At the very, very beginning of the movie, before we even get a title drop, we do the like live, die, repeat sort of thing of he initiates Ares, and then we see him train to become the best damn fighter one has ever seen. And then when he's finally trained enough, he's like, you're my new security guy. You're the Master Controller. Because Master Controller was the antagonist of the first movie, Pete. Here's the program in the first movie.
I did recognize the phrase. I couldn't have told you before I watched it, but as soon as he said it, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember the phrase Master Controller being thrown around. That and users was getting thrown around a lot in the first
users
movie.
And programs. Yeah. Users are gods and programs are programs. And then, we just get this whole thing where, like, as soon as the investor meeting's over, the mom comes out, Mommy Dillinger is just like, oh, you shouldn't be conning our investors. And then Jared Leto just, like, falls apart because it's been exactly 29 minutes.
He disintegrates. I kind of like when people get snapped by Thanos. It's also... maybe a little bit of getting slayed in the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. They get dusted.
Yeah. The only thing they add to it is like there's voxels. There's little glowing cubes to show. No, see, they were digital.
Digital, yes. And the tank does as well. It's not just the life that gets created. It's also the inanimate objects. So it's like, oh, everything breaks down after 29 minutes. And I was thinking, like, you know, there's still like applications for this. Like, because again, one of the selling points he makes is that, hey, you want to wage a war, you can just build like your troops and your tanks in 5 minutes. And I'm like, let's take that at face value, right? Yeah. You could effectively send some digital stuff in, accomplish a big mission, and then all the evidence just wipes away because they all just disintegrate. There's actually a selling point there.
I'm not even thinking that much. You just build a missile. The missile doesn't need to last for more than half an hour. It goes, it causes an explosion. True. It's not like the explosion's going to be undone. It just, boom, done.
That's true. I mean, there seems to be no limit, because the example, of course, back in the Snowy Mountains, where we're doing the finding the MacGuffin plot, they find it, they find the Helix code, and they test it, they print out an orange tree right in the middle of a snowy mountain, and it goes past 29 minutes, and as is made clear in a later scene, you can eat those oranges. It's not just like for show. Which, by the way, so the montage...
And you'll only get a little bit of cancer.
Well, the montage at the end is basically like, hey, we're just growing crops with these digital printers now. We're saving the world with all this fancy technology. Well, which, of course, that's what the good guys do, because they win. If the bad guy won, he was going to build weapons and sell them to the military.
It's all whatever. You know, I can't help but think of the plight of Flynn from the first movie, which was not, oh, I have to do this because it's my product or whatever. The only thing he wanted was credit, and he was fine with like making stuff freeware. But no, I guess we have to put our faith in one of two mega monopoly companies. Thanks, Disney.
Yeah, well, Disney see themselves as the good company in the movie, and
yeah, I'm sure they do.
I'm sure they see Evan Peters as like, I don't know, the head of Apple or something. Like, that's Apple. Yeah. They're not us. They're awful.
I found it especially weird when he put on a turtleneck for no reason. It was strange.
Shout out to Catherine Isabel, who randomly is playing one of the characters at the sales pitch at the start. Which she's a bit of a horror icon. She was in Ginger Snaps and some other stuff over the last 20 or so years. She also had like a one scene role in Backrooms just a month or so ago. So it's just kind of funny seeing her pop up in these tiny roles here or there.
It is weird. Her character's not just like a one name character. It's credited as Marcia Lee Hadlow, which makes me think this is some sort of reference, but I don't know what.
I don't know. Maybe there was some later scenes that got cut or something. Who's to say?
Yeah,
but
maybe.
Regardless, you'll see her in that one scene pretty much. But yeah, so I didn't really know how the plot was going to like progress to its main thrust, right? Obviously, the villain gets a little bit worried that Greta Lee's character Eve is missing, so he's assuming that she's also like getting close to cracking the secret of making this last the 29-minute barrier. So this is when we get the hacking into like the other company servers and all that
during Gamescom. During the big festival for this damn game.
Yeah, I didn't get so again, like we said earlier, you have to like put all your knowledge of computers out the window for any of the logic of the movie to make sense. This is a much smaller thing, but if you're someone who pays attention to video games and knows how video games are announced and then launch, they seem to be having an event here for the launch of the game, not for announcing that it's coming, which is it's the opposite of what happens in the real world. Because he's got a crowd and he's making a big speech. We're launching our new game tonight, and then everything cuts out because of the hack. And I'm like,
yeah,
what are you doing? Like, you want them to buy the game and play it right now? Why are they all at an event?
Everyone here gets a special skin. Wow.
Oh yeah, that's what they really should have done. Is like how shitty the video games are now. Like, yeah, Flynn made this original arcade game, but now you can buy skins, and now you can buy the battle pass, and now you can do this and that.
I mean, at the very least, they pretended like their company was the good guys for this movie. But, like, yeah, of course. Because, like, that's the thing. It's dueling capitalists.
Yes.
Like, it'd be one thing if, like, oh, no, Jared Leto is saying we have to tear down the whole system and start over. And one of the capitalists is like, you're right, I'm sick of this whole thing. But no, they're like, no, we want Encom to become the best company it possibly can be. But don't worry, we won't be evil.
Yeah. And obviously them showing you, oh, we're feeding the poor at the end. Like, that was the movie saying, hey, see, they were the good guys the whole time. And obviously they show the bad guy trying to kill, like, her. So it's like, oh, he's clearly the villain, so I guess we just have to side with her.
Oh my God, I hated that so much.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, she returns from Alaska and she's like, hey, I've got the code on me. I'll be in the office, but I'm going to take this wildly stupid motorcycle ride there.
Yeah, she wants to ride her bike, which is just set up for the fact that she's going to be able to ride the light cycle when she gets the chance. So prepare yourself for that.
Yep.
So so honestly, there is like a pitch here, a premise that I actually think sounds like a good idea for a movie, which is the villain has a way to print, in this case, like, soldiers and vehicles and whatever, to go out and do his bidding, and then they disappear after 29 minutes. Because that 29 minutes is very interesting, that rule. Like, you could do things with that rule. You could build, like, sort of, like, trying to accomplish something in that time period. Maybe the good guys also have access to it, so they're trying to accomplish something in that time period. You can pit that against each other, and, like, if we delay our deployment by 5 minutes, our troops will last 5 minutes longer, naturally, so maybe we can get something done in that 5 minutes when they're reloading their digital troops or whatever. Like, there's so many things you could do with that.
Yeah, I'd love to see the idea that they've been stuck on this 29-minute barrier for so long that, like, they strategically have built warehouses like an hour away from each other, so that way they each are able to reach roughly a distance to each other.
Yeah, contingencies. Like, there's a lot you could really do if you think about this idea of, like, okay, we've got this limitation, but we've been trying to at least work around it for now until we can get the MacGuffin that'll save it all. So, super interesting conceptually. Unfortunately, even as interesting as it potentially is, that he sends out Ares and the second in command, Athena, who becomes kind of the main villain later on, because she doesn't grow a heart. She just wants to achieve her goal at all costs.
Yeah, they do this whole thing early on as Ares is trying to track down where Eve Kim is, where he's looking through her files or whatever, and it's like, is this humanity? Can I love? Can I feel?
Yeah, so he's looking at photos of her and her sister, and her being at her sister's funeral and being like, am I empathizing with human? Is that what's happening right now?
You see Evan Peters looking at the computer because he's not responding immediately, and he's like, excuse me, what? What's happening? We'll delete you if you're not working, man.
So he sends out those two in their light cycles to go and get Eve, to kidnap her so they can get the code that she has on her. She has it on a physical stick in her jacket pocket. Yep. So that's what we're doing.
Because at one point, in the middle of everything happening, she unzips her jacket, pulls it out, looks at it for 5 seconds, and puts it back in.
So, yeah, I think what was weird to me about this sequence, and I think I said this during the Tron Legacy review as well, is that there is like some cool things you could do with this idea of you can turn on like a trail that can cut through stuff and can be a block, and you can sort of play with the mechanics of that. And it does a couple things with that. Unfortunately, though, I think the action in this is always like weirdly kind of slow. I don't know, there's something about it. It's almost like they want to just bask in the light show constantly too much, that I feel like everything doesn't have this sense of momentum that it feels like it should, so it feels like it's running at half speed. So there's that problem. The other thing I had with this, though, is that Eve weirdly kind of like, she kind of keeps like taking things in her stride in a way that didn't make sense to me. Like, she recognizes that these light cycles are after her, so she immediately starts taking evasive moves, and I'm like, why do you think they're hunting you necessarily? Like, unless that other people have already started printing like people out of like these printers and like sent them after people, because everything else tells us this is the first time anyone's done this. Is him printing these people and sending them out is like, no, you're the first person to do this, which is a whole like cool idea and like can of worms, which is just the idea of like, well, what if one of these things hurts a real human being? And I want to come back to that thought later, when it kind of comes out of nowhere and just kind of happens and it's not even that big a deal, relatively speaking. But Eve takes this in her stride, and she's like dodging the light barrier things, which cut a cop car in half and all these other things. And when we get to the point where she's been able to kind of like maneuver enough that she kind of blocks Jared Leto for a bit, where he's kind of stranded on his own, and it's just Athena chasing her. We get to this point where Athena gets knocked off her light cycle, right? And she goes over the edge and down this circular kind of car park spiral road, right? Reminds me of the location in The Dark Knight when he jumps down near the start onto the van. Right? Same kind of place. And
it's identical.
She notices that Athena's back up, and she's running up the circular driveway, and she's like, shit, I need to go. And she turns around and looks at the light cycle, and you can tell this is the moment where they want the audience to be like, oh, she's going to ride the light cycle, we all want her to do it, everyone clap your hands. And she looks at it, and she's like, oh shit, I can ride that probably. And she tries to pick it up. And what was really weird, though, is that when she can physically pick it up, she starts just going do on the touchpad, and then it sort of like picks itself up. You know, it's like
zzz,
right, and I'm like, okay, either the controls in this thing are so universal and it's what like do you use the controls for this light cycle when you use it in the video games that it exists in this world? How does she know how to do this exactly?
Yes. That's the answer. Yeah. Like the technology is so ubiquitous and everyone knows how everything works. Cause that's the thing is like throughout this movie, we keep on getting introduced to these like rival companies of the Dillinger and Comstock, and they have effectively the same product. They're both doing the same thing theoretically, but like it's also down to the level of, well, they both have to work identically because their grids are the same. So like the back end has to be the same, therefore the front end is also the same. Like it's just because the Tron universe is how it is that this has to be a thing.
It just because like the whole idea of like, oh, there's going to be controls to make it prop itself back up. Like light cycles don't exist in the real world, so how did you know it could do that? And just because it can do it in the video game, like, are you controlling it the same way with a touchpad? You're probably not. You're using a controller or a joystick. And so I don't know. The logic questions really get into my head here. Like, if it was just her getting on the bike, because they've established she can ride a motorbike, she even quite likes riding a motorbike, and the fundamentals are the same, so she'd be able to work it out and get going. But then she's surprised by like the helmet coming up over, and that's fine. Whatever. But there was just enough of a disconnect in some of these little things that she just seemingly like the fact that she even had the idea of, oh, it probably has a button to pick itself up is like, why would you why would she possibly make that assumption? It just doesn't make sense to me. So anyway,
no, absolutely. There is one bit during this chase scene, like they activate the light cycle like trail and it cuts through a cop car, and like fine. It immediately opens up a whole can of worms about like even beyond the 3D printing stuff, the fact that you can have hard light constructs.
Yeah.
Fine, like I'll take it. What bothered me the most though is somewhere in the middle of this fight, Jared Leto is on his motorcycle, the other person didn't go by, and then Jared Leto is about to collide with a car, just an innocent bystander car, and he's able to deploy some flaps that just stop. Like dead stop on a dime from like 100 miles an hour. And he just moved full stop and like,
yes.
I don't know why, but for me, that was like the one thing that I remember about the light cycle thing in the original Tron is the whole point is you can't stop. Like because you get trapped, you hit a wall, you explode. And the fact that this is like, no, but we added brakes. It's like, oh, okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah, I don't remember that, but I believe you. I mean, for me, it's just like a law of physics things where I'm like, I don't know if you could stop that quick.
They're breaking the law of physics constantly, whatever.
So when she's on the light cycle, though, when Eve gets on the light cycle and she's zooming through the streets and she's like going cross traffic and into alleyways and all that, Jared Leto eventually sort of speeds up next to her and they have a bit of a race and like sort of try to nudge each other off and whatever else. There's a whole sequence that plays out.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. It all ends at a pier. There's a docks, a warehouse district at a docks, and he basically, his time runs out as he's looking at her, and he starts to disintegrate. And one of the other sort of building blocks here of like him gaining a conscience is that she actually kind of feels bad for him as he's like disintegrating, and he recognizes that. But don't worry though, because the villain has sent out his human henchman with the digitize cannon, which is able to digitize Eve and put her in their grid. Kind of like how the humans get into the grids in the first two movies, I guess.
Yes, it's functionally identical. I immediately hated that we brought this human into the grid. And it's twofold, because first, I was pissed off because I'm like, God damn it. The entire premise of this movie, the entire thing you've built up now for like 45 minutes at this point, is the idea that this is all the stuff that was in the grid is coming out to the real world. If you wanted to do the same as the first two Tron movies, you should have led with that. So we get her in. And then she's only there for like 10 goddamn minutes. Why did we bother with this? Why did we send her to the grid?
So we could have a nice big chase sequence in the grid with more stuff going on with Tron things. We get a like a, what do you call one of those things, like a speedboat or a
Yeah, it's like a submarine jet ski. That's the word.
Well, it's a jet ski, yeah, but then it sort of surprises itself because it can sort of like conceal itself and then go underwater, so it becomes submersible, and then it does the thing where it leaves a trail and then he flies up out the water and it creates a wall for the jet skis chasing him. That's when he's decided to help her. They make a kind of a deal where it's like, hey, I want to keep living and be a real boy, so if I help you get out and help you get to your office and, you know, do everything, do you make me live?
They try to do this whole bit where it's a recurring thing where she's like, oh, well, you probably can't trust me, but like, you don't have another choice or whatever. I'm like, you seem like the most trustworthy person to ever exist.
You're the protagonist who's the nice one. Like, nothing about your character needs this little hint of, oh, maybe you can't be trusted. Like, why couldn't you be trusted? There's nothing.
Maybe I'm secretly the bad boy character like Baby Flynn was in the last movie.
Nothing in this movie suggests that there's any merit to her saying maybe you can't trust me. Like, nothing. She never betrays anyone in the entire film.
No.
That's such a weird detail to throw in there. And then
dumbest thing.
Yeah, the whole digitizing thing's weird because when they have their chase, right, and he makes his face turn to help her, and there's a couple of steps to it where he kind of like stalls by saying that the user, you know, Evan Peters is like busy and he's not given an order yet, and then immediately Athena like goes to him and says, "Hey,
like, that doesn't seem right.
I think Ares...
he never leaves his warehouse. What do you mean he's in traffic?"
So she gets a promotion from the boss man, and he's racing out with her, and they basically get to the exit, which they just get to very easily because we want to get out of this quickly, so we're not going to like, because in the other movies that's like the whole movie's trying to get out of the grid. This movie you can do it in 5 minutes, so just roll with it.
And that's I also especially love the idea of every time that like a program just wants to come into the universe, just wants to be made, they can do it without any permission, without anyone standing on the back end. It's a printer that can literally turn itself on and just, it's a fax machine essentially. That's what this is.
Yeah, and to be fair, like I know some people are going to be saying, "Oh, you're like picking apart everything in this," and you're right. And if I cared about the characters, I'd be letting so much of this go. If I actually gave a shit about these characters, if I bought into the robot who wants to be a human boy, like story, if I bought into like the struggles of Eve, and I cared about how villainous Evan Peters, because that's the thing, Evan Peters is told that if they extract the code from her memory, because she's seen it, like they'll be able to take it from her head, it will kill her. It will erase like her digital self, and therefore she can never go back to the real world, and she's dead. And he doesn't even think about it. He just says, "Yeah, do it. Go for it." There's not even like a shred of like, "Oh, I'll feel bad about that," but I'm pushed into a corner.
He pauses for just a second, only to ask, "Will it leave any sort of evidence?" And Jared Leto's like, "No," and he's like, "All right, cool, do it.
Go for it." Yeah, but so here's my thing though, is that they get to the exit, that the printers turn on, Evan Peters is like, "Whoa, who's turned on the printers?" And sure enough, Jared Leto materializes. He starts beating up all the security guards that have swarmed him, and there's Eve in her original clothes. And I immediately said to myself, because Jared Leto says, "All right, 29 minutes and counting," and I'm like, okay, that's actually quite good mechanically. We've got 29 minutes to accomplish whatever you want to accomplish, and then your super soldier who's good at fighting everyone disappears. But that does raise a question. Does Eve have a 29-minute limit?
No. The moment she comes out, they have little clocks over top of their little printer to say, okay, the countdown started. But the counter does not just default to 29 minutes. Somehow it senses the lifespan of the thing it made. So when Jared Leto gets printed, the timer says 29 minutes. But when Eve gets printed, it says, what? XXXX. We don't know. She doesn't have it. She's off the grid.
Which is like, so it just knew to rematerialize her from her real matter that was taken initially. So it just, this is stupid. This is so stupid.
Yeah.
It would have been more interesting.
So much more interesting. Yeah.
More interesting if she was also in the 29-minute limit, and how do you revert her back to her original human permanent until natural death state?
I think the one clever thing they did in this movie is the next plot beat, which is the idea that in order to stave off his 29 minutes, to give them time to do something, they put him back into the grid before the 29 minutes is up, which effectively, because that's the thing, is like, if he dies, he's going to respawn essentially back in the Dillinger place, but Dillinger's just going to say, no, I'm not respawning you, and therefore he's effectively dead no matter what. So this version needs to persist, this version of the program, which putting him back to the digital grid is a smart way to do that. But yes, it would have been so much more intelligent to say this human character now also needs to find the permanence code because she now needs to live again.
I explained something. You made something very unclear there as you were speaking.
Okay.
Right.
Sorry.
They have to put him into their own digital grid, not because he will respawn back in the villain's digital grid, and he will just be deleted there because he's bad now. Well, from his perspective. So they put him into their own NCOM grid where he will be safe until they can bring him back out.
Not just their own NCOM grid.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Well, we get to the nostalgia, which is, this is the grid from the 80s. So he goes into it, and it's the original Tron visuals as well, as best as they can recreate them in 2025.
It's pretty spot on. But they got the color grading right.
But it's the old light cycle with the bar first, it forms around it and all that. And of course, he finds Flynn in there. Right, we actually glossed over, but there's a whole section of the movie where it's about them driving to get to the building, and they kind of bond over him spying on our digital files and whatnot. And
I do need to talk about that, because this is the part where, can we just get a little bit more masturbatory over the 80s, please?
Depeche Mode. Do you like Depeche Mode?
Oh my God, Depeche Mode. Look, Jared Leto was in American Psycho. He was the man who was sitting on the couch as Christian Bale was going around talking about Huey Lewis in the news. Jared Leto was there, and he decides in this movie to give his own little Christian Bale, Patrick Bateman monologue about Depeche Mode. And he's like, well, I just think that the soothing synths and the electro-pop. Shut the hell up, man.
Yeah, he likes Depeche Mode, and later, we'll come back to that later, but they set that up in the car because he turns it up and he starts talking about the history of the band and all that.
Rubik's Cube real quick for no particular reason.
And so there's a bit more of that, but they eventually get, and by this point, Athena's been sent into the world, and she's flying around in the pie. No, not yet, not the pie ship yet. It's just
no.
It's a little jetpack. Yeah, it's a little jetpack kite thing, and she's flying around. She gets to the building, and Ares is basically going to sacrifice himself and says, "Hey, I can hold her off while you're finishing your thing." And Eve says, no, I'm not going to let that happen. So she turns the cannon, and that's when she digitizes them back into their own 80s grid. And the reason why they're doing that grid, I think, is because it's not connected to the others. It's completely isolated, right?
Yes and no. I think all of the grids are isolated. I think the idea is that any system is just its own thing, which is why the Dillinger grid is separate from everything else, which goes against the legacy and everything that said. But the alternative is that the backups that they found in Alaska, they were backups of this grid. So they logic that somewhere in the 80s grid, the code is present. They just don't know where it is. So they say, you got to go in there and find it.
Okay. So, yes, that's the MacGuffin reason. And he gets in there, and after he rides about in the cycle for a bit, he meets Flynn. Jeff Bridges shows up, and I was like, wait, didn't Jeff Bridges' digital self actually die in this sort of sacrifice moment in Tron Legacy?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that happened. And they explain that away here by saying, oh, I'm not really Flynn. I'm just a version of Flynn that's here as an echo of you. And I'm like, wait, what? You're an echo of Jared Leto? So you're basically saying that because you're a god to Jared Leto because he's been studying who you are, you're the manifestation of his inner god talking to him, which it'd be one thing. But the weird thing after this, though, is that it kind of feels like Jeff Bridges' Flynn is testing to see if he's worthy to get the code that he's looking for. Because he's like, hey, why do you like Depeche Mode? And he's like, I can't put it into words. It's just a feeling. And he's like, you pass. Here's the code.
Far out, man. No, it's. I understood it as a Jor-El in the fortress sort of thing.
Oh, so you think he's here as a digital gatekeeper?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that, like, he left his own fingerprint, his own thing here of like, this is an approximation of me, because we saw that in Legacy. We saw that he had
but
the version of him there, but that one turned evil.
Yeah, I would like to point out though that when I said mirror image, that is something that is actually said in the movie.
Yes.
Is you're a reflection or mirror image of you being here, and I'm like, that's the part that's tripping me up.
Yeah, Ares said something along the lines of like, who are you? What are you doing here? He's like, oh, well, I'm only here as a reflection of you because you're here, or something like that. And it's like, all right, you're making this more complicated than it needs to be. Just say you're Norton antivirus and move on with it. Like,
if it was just like, hey, this is a copy of my personality that I put here as like a guardian of this sacred code, which admittedly we're getting into Ready Player One vibes if we're looking for the Easter egg, and I'm
yes, that's all this movie was to begin with. It's Disney's Ready Player One,
and I hate Ready Player One to begin with. Might I add?
Yeah,
which we've not done on Ace for the record, by the way.
Thank you.
Yet.
Thank you. I'm going to keep thanking you every day that we don't, if you want those thank yous to continue.
The beans will continue until morale improves.
But yeah, no, out in the real world then, they do a whole bit where Athena goes through the office and is like threatening to kill them. And then the sprinklers turn on. So she feels rain for the first time. And she's like, what is this? Yeah. And then she realizes, oh, wait, my directive, right as she times out.
Yeah. So she basically she's basically going to go like finish her mission, which is to get back Eve no matter the cost, which leads to when she starts printing all of her own stuff, and she's like, oh, I want to print this ship and that ship and these other people. Evan Pierce like, hey, that's a bit too big. Maybe you shouldn't do that. Gillian Anderson, who might have said, we've kind of skipped over every time she's come in and talked to her son, because it's always the same. It's like basically, oh, the boys are going to like this. What have you done this time, son? You've went too far. She comes in.
Yeah, also, there's tons of news things now about like crazy ass bike riders going around the city, these light walls going up, explosions at ENCOM, and Jillian's like, you're insane, kid. Yeah, I'm taking this away.
Yeah, she comes in and says, the boards decide to reinstate me. You're out. You've effed this up. That's it. And she goes over to turn everything off, and you can see it coming a mile away, where it's, oh, she's going to interfere with what Athena's doing, and Athena's doing what she's doing at any cost. So Athena just stabs her. And the fact that like Gillian Anderson doesn't think there's going to be a consequence to her trying to turn this off felt a bit weird to me, but it was like, this feels like a huge deal, because this is presumably the first time that a digital person has come into the world and has murdered a human being. This should be a huge fallout. And the weird thing about this moment to me is that this effectively makes Athena now the main villain, and Evan Peters just stays here until he runs away at the end. And it's like, so, like, okay, the character you were actually like building up as being this unlikable piece of shit is now not even the one who's going to confront anyone in the movie. No. It's now going to be Athena.
Evan Peters never leaves his building. He is in two rooms in this movie. He sits behind one computer and he's down in the printing labs. And I guess post-credit scene, he makes an appearance there. But like,
post-credit scene?
Oh, Pete, did you not do the post-credit scene?
No, credits started rolling and I bailed.
It wasn't even, it was like 15 seconds. Like they just did like the first batch of cast and then they went right into it. Ah, oh, God. All right, well, I'm going to have to explain that.
It was
now.
Time to record. I couldn't leave you in, David.
That's fine. That's fine. Anyway, so yeah, no, the Evan Peters never leaves the thing, but here's my idea. And I'm curious what you would think about
so
this.
Just before you get your idea, the one thing I thought for a split second when this happened is like, oh, are they going to do some kind of redemptive thing where now Evan Peters is going to help stop her? And I thought that would be fine, except he literally was fine with just killing the main character earlier, which makes it hard to swallow that. But don't worry, they're not even going to try to do anything with him from this point on. He's just going to disappear from the movie until it's time.
He's cradling his dead mother, Peter.
Yeah, until the cops show up at the very end of the movie. Anyway, what's your idea?
Also, to be clear, from this point on, from the moment where she prints out the stuff to the end of the movie, by necessity must be 29 minutes.
Yes.
The entire third act must happen within 29 minutes of real time, not just like us watching it. In movie, it must be less than 29 minutes, which feels insane. Anyway, my idea is, let's run with the idea from Legacy, okay? Let's say Olivia Wilde gets printed out. However that happens, she's now in the real world. She gets found out as the first ever program to be sent into the real world. That's why Baby Flynn leaves the company. They both flee, go to Mexico or whatever. Then, in the context of the movie, everyone knows this is now possible to print out these programs, to do that stuff. And they start doing it. They start making headway, doing whatever they can, but they keep coming up against this 29-minute barrier. And that's where we're at with this point in the movie. When we introduce this, the fact that they print out Ares is not he is the first thing to be printed. That's not what's big to them. It's the fact that he has been trained so significantly to be a warrior. That's what makes him special here, is the fact that he has this military combat training that none of the other AIs before this have. And then you can then run with this idea of like, okay, maybe the world is a little bit used to the idea of having printed programs, but like they're ridiculously expensive to have the printers, and also they die after half an hour, so it's not something that like consumers have. It's only something that like governments or major companies would have anything to do with, and that would also keep it more on the back end or whatever. I think there's a ton of fleshing out you could do here without ruining your entire world, and they just decided, whatever, don't think about it.
Yep. Yeah, there's lots of actual things that would make it real science fiction to explore about how this could be used and exploited, and the arms race of it, and so on and so on. And then the mechanics of like, oh, only 29 minutes, there's things you can do there. Because you could effectively play out the entire third act as, oh, we just have to last 29 minutes, and then we win. Yeah. Because
they did not.
Yeah.
If anything, they win as soon as the 29 minutes has already happened. Like, They complete the timer, and it's like, oh, hey, we hacked into the system, so she's not going to be able to come back. Newsflash, Evan Peters wasn't going to let her come back to begin with.
Yeah,
they didn't
done.
know that, but it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, he's done. So, yeah, so the whole thing is that while her friends and colleagues, who are a bunch of side characters who we've not even mentioned once yet, she's got like
unimportant.
She's got like a friend who's with her for the start of the movie, and then there's like two other characters who are at the events. They're nothing characters. She basically says, look, they're coming for me. I'm the target, so I'm going to just go out and be a distraction and be bait whilst you have time to do all this hacking business. And that's kind of like the thing. So it's okay. On paper, I get what they're doing here. It's showing that she's brave because she goes out and faces the pie ship. When I say pie ship, I mean the symbol pie, mathematic pie, not a steak pie or.
It's like a taco truck, but it delivers pies.
I love how it says steak pie first, and Americans are like steak pie.
I was gonna say what?
Steak pie is like the most common pie in the UK. So you're
I remember I went to a place when I visited that was just a pie place, and like they were all meat pies, and I was like, this sounds disgusting. I'd like to leave.
That's what. See, if you say a pie to someone in the UK, the first thing they think of is a pie with meat in it. It's not.
Yeah. No, that was weird.
Yeah. And it's not that we don't have the pies you have, but we just don't really call a lot of them pies. Like, we just call them desserts or cakes or whatever. Yeah.
No, it's American exceptionalism, absolutely.
Except apple pie. Apple pie is a pie because it's still in like this traditional pastry with a top and all that. Anyway, there's some cultural stuff to learn there.
Yeah.
But anyway, so she's like running away from the big pie ship. There's some other jetpack ones flying around, and they do some fancy things with their trails to like, because basically the military send in some jets at some point during this because like,
right.
We're all these UFOs that are attacking the city. We better send in some pilots. So
again, like these jet things have to have been scrambled within like 2 minutes of this thing even appearing for this to work, for it to be 29 minutes.
It's funny because like the big shot from the trailer was the pie ship coming out from behind the building, and Greta Lee kind of starting to run and be scared, and I was like, that was like a fine shot for the trailer, but the context of like, oh, this only thing's only going to last for 29 minutes does change the dynamics of it quite a bit. Because the impression I got from the trailer was that, oh, this was going to be an invasion, like the digital world's rising up and wants to like go, we're sick of being just a digital world, we want to take over the real world.
That is absolutely intentional by virtue of they never once show Evan Peters in any of the trailers.
Yes. So they barely show Jared Leto in the trailers, to be honest.
True. But they at least give him one solid face shot in there to be like, okay, yeah, that's him. So, yeah, I mean, that's all happening. Just to be clear. Jared Leto's still off doing his thing. He's still on the 80s
grid, yeah. And because that's the big thing.
They make him do the pose where he holds up the Tron.
Yes. Yes. So she's barely surviving. There's some jets fly into the pie ship, and that starts to go down. And basically, we get to the point where Athena's got the digitizer gun right in her face. She's about to lose and get caught. And that's when, walking down the street with his red lights turning white, because now he's not part of the
now he's
the
a
Dillinger
good
grid.
character.
And yeah, this is where they start fighting, and the trails of their discs are like zooming around, and like there's just something so slow about the action that just feels really dull to me. Like, I don't know, none of it was exciting.
So, my thought process, and this is, I'd have to watch it and like really analyze to see if it's true, but my thought process is this felt like music first, video second. It felt to me like they were timing the action to the music rather than the other way around.
Interesting. Yeah, I could maybe. That's an interesting observation. That might explain the strange pacing.
Because to be clear, Trent Reznor, and I'm blanking on the other guy's name,
Atticus
they were
Ross.
executive producers. Atticus Ross, yeah. They were executive producers on this movie. They have a major hand in it.
Yeah, I mean, their music's solid. There's definitely parts of it that I thought were quite good. It definitely felt like, though, at times, I don't know. Is it weird to say it was trying too hard at times?
Yes. No, the sequence with the jet ski stuff was the first time that we went into actual like lyrical music instead of just soundtrack. And I was like, you crossed the threshold. You went too far. I don't care for this now.
Yeah, so that was a thing. But yeah, anyway, of course, like, ultimately, good guy win. I mean, I don't know. Is there anything to say about the action scene, really?
They do the thing where the hacking takes hold just like moments before everyone else is hitting their 29 minutes, and Leto goes over and cradles Athena, and it's like, she's like, I was just following my directive, and he's like, I know, you did a good job. And she's like, what will you do now that you got your infinite mortality code thing? And he's like, I don't know, and she just dies.
Yeah. He does try to make an observation at one point about how, oh, well, it's not like an unlimited time, because now he's technically human. He will die at some day eventually, but it's like an unknown time.
Well, yeah, that's what the Flint says in the thing. He's like, we call this thing the impermanence or the permanence code, but actually it's the impermanence code, because you're giving yourself mortality. You don't have infinite respawns anymore. And so think about that for all of the 5 minutes that are left in this movie.
Yeah, so basically, hey, here's all these news reports of all the nice things the company are doing. Now they've got the permanence code, feeding people, yada yada. And Jared
Leto,
Leto,
police over to Evan Peters.
Yes, and he digitizes himself into his grid to escape. So you could make. I guess the post-credit scene's going to do something more with that. You'll tell me about that in a minute.
Oh, yeah, it does something more with that.
But yeah, she gets a postcard from Jared Leto, who's just traveling, and we see that he's looking at a photo of Olivia Wilde because he wants to find the original digital human who exists in the world, saying that Tron 2 did happen in some capacity, and
yes,
we got the rights for a photograph, but she didn't want to come back. So
if this movie makes enough money, we might be able to pay Olivia Wilde. Please let this movie make enough money.
Narrator. It did not.
Yes. I'm in the almost final episode of season 3 of Arrested Development right now, and I just hear Ron Howard all the time.
Just stop by the end of season 3.
I know. I should. I probably will, but we'll see.
Just stop there.
Yeah, all right. So post-credits, just explain what happens.
Yep.
Evan, so the same way that Eve Kim was brought into the digital thing, like, she scanned in or whatever, Evan Peters has that. He comes crawling out of a little hole that he's in. By the way, the hacking of Dillinger systems equated to basically dropping a nuke on their grid. So their grid, you look at it now and it's just this, like, everything's blown up, everything's awful. Evan Peters looking out over it. And then he gets a little ping behind him. He turns around and he sees the identity disk. One has been generated for him. However, it looks particularly old school, a la the 80s. And he goes over to grab it. And as he grabs the disc, all of a sudden these lights start going around him. And I don't know if you even remember this, but the primary program villain from the first Tron movie had a really stupid looking headset thing on that was like all spiky and pointy.
Vaguely.
That starts forming around him, and it says the word Sark, which is the name of the program, villainous program from the first Tron movie.
So they
thus saying that he's taking the place, or he's being overridden by the Sark program from the first movie.
So it's a massive sequel bait then, which I guess is not surprising. Yeah, good luck. I mean, hey, who knows? I mean, they eventually made this one after the last one didn't do that well. So maybe in 15 years they'll do Tron something.
I'd be fine with a Disney Plus single season animated show that's just like, oh, Tron, I don't know, Ulysses, whatever you want to call it. Just throw it out there.
Don't need to see another Tron thing in my life. Thank you very much. We're good. I'm good.
Yeah. Look, it's I watched this movie and I just felt the late stage Disney of it. The idea of like, we have all these IPs and we have what the flowchart says should be successful. Yeah. So why isn't it just successful?
It does feel like the company that did the modern Star Wars movies. It absolutely feels like that same company. Yeah, because there's also a character thing. We didn't even mention this either, but Greta Lee's character apparently wants to quit the company early on, and then Jared Leto's like, "You shouldn't quit," and at the end she's like, "Yeah, I'm not going to quit." There you go, arc.
She's got like 800 weird things going on, because they also do this bit of like, why are you looking for the permanence code? And they do a little bit where she's singing the praises of AI of like, yeah, well, what happens if you want to talk to somebody who's no longer here anymore? And the heavy implication is she wants to make an AI of her sister and use the permanent code to basically bring her sister back to life. Where does that go?
That's never brought
drops off somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, never comes up again, which is good. I mean, maybe there was going to be a scene where she tries to talk to a digital version of her sister, and they realized that people hate, digitizing like dead actors and putting them in movies. So maybe this would be like too close to that, and we'd all be like, "Oh, this is disgusting. This is awful." And not to mention unhealthy.
Yeah. No, they set up the large language model of the sister and say like, yes, we modeled her after your sister, and over here is the walking head of Walt Disney. What?
Yeah, we have torn into this. It's still aggressively just mediocre though. I don't think it goes into like terrible territory just because it doesn't do anything there's no swings taken to make it land in that territory. It's just you're right, it's such a bland Disney product in every possible way and all that entails.
No, again, it's so strange to me that it can be that, because the one thing that Legacy had going for it was the style. Like, it felt hollow, but the style was there. It felt like they really had this visual tone they were going for and all that. And all I could think when I pictured this movie is there's one shot of the kite jetpack thing flying over some mountains. And I think, boy, that looks really boring. Like, you have this magical digital world that you spent 10 minutes in, which, to be fair, I didn't want to be there to begin with, but whatever. And then you just set everything against the backdrop of, oh yeah, I guess one ship shows up in questionable California town, whatever town that is.
Yeah. I don't know. It is a testament, though, that because part of me thought, oh, that blandness with some of those modern Star Wars movies or some of the modern Marvel movies and so on, as part of that, because they've been overdone, right? Because they have been, right? But this just proves that this Disney blandness can also be applied to something that's only had 2 movies and is not overdone. Yeah. But it still ends up with that same feeling. I'm almost impressed.
Yeah, no, I think this is just a company-wide problem now. I think this is just a thing where it's like, the same way that we hear about Netflix telling creatives to make it second screen content, to make it something where people can drop in and out of the plot or whatever. Disney just kind of has a tone problem, a creativity problem, where just everything feels a little bit bland.
It's a committee thing, because it's exactly the reason why stuff that's written by AI will not work, right? It's just that Disney are kind of doing it without AI first, which is, what are all the ingredients that work? Let's put all those ingredients back into a thing and do a story that works. But it's all by the book. It's so by the book that it's just dull. And it's just made up of all the ideas that have worked before in different ways, and that's all it is. And that's effectively what AI is going to do when you ask it to make something. It's just going to look at the database of all the things that have been made and slop it out. This is just Disney just kind of perfected doing it with people first. And that's just what this is.
Good job, Disney. You managed to become the thing that you were propping up in this movie. Like, I'd love to see that story. The full metaphor of like, no, the company became a program. Ooh.
And, you know, it is biting them a bit like Marvel movies, unless you're Spider-Man or maybe Avengers. We'll see how that pans out. Or like or maybe a Wolverine. It feels like a lot of the B tier stuff isn't hitting the way it used to because people are kind of sick of them. You know, Star Wars definitely, well, it still makes some money. It ain't doing what it used to, and they're barely, you know, scraping profitable at this point.
Yeah, I was gonna say Disney. I work very closely in the comic industry of like knowing the comics that come out from Disney and Marvel and whatnot, especially the Star Wars line. They're not doing anything. There's maybe like one Star Wars miniseries running right now, not even like the main headline Star Wars. Like, I don't think they know what they're doing with the series at all at the moment.
So yeah, they've got the factory feel of the way they churn out stuff is a problem with pretty much most of their stuff. Toy Story 5 is meant to be good, so maybe there are some exceptions that maybe they do get away from it, even though I still roll my eyes at, oh, there's a fifth Toy Story a little bit.
Right.
But, yeah.
Right.
But obviously,
I will never, unless I hear something is like actually the best movie ever made, I'm never going to go back past 3 because like that was the end. They ended the story.
Yeah, I was underwhelmed by 4, so I have no real desire to see it, even though 5 is supposed to be better than 4, but whatever. Anyway, this is a whole side talk about Disney at this point, so I would like to wrap this up and have some food, so we're moving on. All right, David, what are you rating Tron Ares out of 10?
Boy, I'm hovering around the 5. I just don't know if I'm going slightly above or slightly below.
Oh, dead on.
It might be dead on. Like, maybe that is where just I very rarely give out just a dead on 5.
Well, I'm just, you know, if you're struggling between just above or just below, there is literally a middle point in between those two things that you could settle on.
All right, fine. I'm sitting dead on at a 4.9, and I'm trying to figure out whether it's above or below. Because like it does feel like a movie. It does feel like there was competent people that were around filming it, acting in it. The special effects worked, the music worked. Like, that stuff is all fine. But I just have such a disdain for the main story and the characters that it's almost to the point of angering me over the whole product. And I just, I don't know. I feel like the safest thing I could say in the moment is a 5. I think I am just going to go dead on. But I think that, like, over time, I might have a more negative reaction to it as I like think on it more. So with that little caveat, I'll just say 5.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I think I when I finished the movie, I think I was thinking just a dead 5. I think just straight mediocrity. I feel like having talked about it and talking about the script, I kind of want to just nudge it slightly under, just as a cat.
Okay.
Just as an FU, just like, hey, I'm giving you crap because you're mediocre in a very kind of boring, bland way. And as I said this in streams at the start of the year. This is the year I start waging war on mediocrity, and I'm going to go with a 4.5.
All right.
Sounds
good.
That's my reasoning.
I was between that. Makes sense.
Yes. So there you go. That is Tron Ares. We're done. I never have to talk about this movie or think about it ever again. I'm happy to say that.
And in 15 seasons, we get to watch the next Tron movie.
We'll see. I have no thing to style. Try to do Star Wars movies in 15 years. Never mind Tron 4, but we'll find out. So. Yeah, that is Tron Ares. What is coming next on the Atomic Cinema Experiment, you might ask? Well, this was actually the second episode this week because we didn't have any last week. Next week,
yes,
chill week. We're just going to have the next Godzilla movie. We got Ibara, Horror of the Deep, which is the 7th Godzilla movie. If my numbers
count.
Right? Yeah. So that's coming next week, and then, you know, more stuff beyond that. I won't tell you there, but I did put out a preview video on the channel, on the YouTube channel, if you want to check out, where I tell you everything that's coming in Ace and Collector's Cut over the next 3 months. If that's something you want to go and spoil for yourself, or if you want a sense of surprise, you can just wait until I tell you at the end of each episode. But that's what's going on. Yeah, so look forward to more Godzilla. But yeah, you can support everything over at Patreon, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. Get access to the Ratings Rundown segments. We did go off kilter a little bit on that one that we just recorded for this episode. But yeah, we do a Ratings Rundown segment for each episode of Ace and Collector's Cut. Collector's Cut being the other movie podcast, if you've not checked that one out. We're doing Submarine season soon, if that sounds like fun on there. But one of the main benefits of Patreon is the show we do every month called Extra Reels, where we review some of the worst movies of all time. That's a monthly show that's exclusive to Patreon, and also YouTube membership is an alternative if you want to get the bonus content through there. Either way, though, thanks to everyone who does support us already. It really does make the shows coming possible, so thank you very much. But that is us. We are done with this week's episode of the Atomic Cinema Experiment. Thank you once again for watching or listening. We do appreciate it.
Peter.
Oh, I keep forgetting. Yeah.
Peter.
Do you know what? What did this to me? Do you know what I think it is? I think either I got used to the Godzilla episodes, or we did just too many collector's cuts in a row recording wise, and I have forgotten to remember that you've got homework at the end of these.
Look, I don't want to be that kid who's calling out to teachers saying, hey, check the homework.
I know.
Unfortunately, I need to have these on the books for my sake.
Quite right. Look, homework movie, David goes back, he watches a sci-fi movie that we did on the show before he joined the show, so he can eventually be caught up. And maybe when he's done all the movies, maybe I'll give him some other homework just for shits and giggles. But regardless...
I can't wait.
Regardless, what was this week's homework movie?
Well, we got a countdown coming up soon. I just need to get through everything that might theoretically be on the countdown. And because I was expecting there to be a reference to Cillian Murphy in this movie, of which there was none, I chose to do Sunshine. Yeah. Had never seen the movie before, was aware of the general vibe of the movie. Spoilers, just to be clear, anybody who doesn't want Sunshine, it's a good movie. Check it out. I wasn't aware going into it exactly what the twist was going to be, but I was aware that there was a twist.
Yeah, I mean, twist is maybe a strong word, but let's just say there's a turn for the third act. And I'm just stalling a little bit just so that everyone who wants to click off before spoilers has had time to do so. Okay, proceed with what you're going to say. That's
really the most I was going to say about it. I just wanted people to be aware that, there is a twist, there is a turn.
I'll tell you what I want to say, though. Oh, that music, the score.
Oh my God, yes.
Like, that track is so good. There's other good tracks in it, actually, but that main track, the Adagio in D minor, I think it is, that is so good that multiple other movies have used it, and TV shows have used it since. It's that damn good.
I as soon as I heard that playing, I'm like, I've heard this elsewhere. But then I checked and I was like, oh, this made it. This is like the one that had it. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just it's solid by the book sci-fi. It does a great job of setting up what it is. When I say by the books, I mean in terms of like plot and stuff like that, of like, it sets up this band of characters on a spaceship off to do a mission. They're doing their thing. I will say the movie does have a lot more of an artistic flair than I feel like most standard kind of sci-fi movies do. It definitely comes into it with like a je ne sais quoi to it, of like making you feel like one of the first things in the movie is the idea of a character bathing themselves in sunlight and talking about what kind of experience it is. And the visual style of that reflects it. They reflect this sort of spiritual idea, and that's recurring throughout the entire movie. I like all the stuff they set up. It makes sense scene to scene of like problem A causes problem B causes problem C, and they keep on rolling down the line with that. It sets up a great sort of world with it. I think my only little critique to it is maybe I missed it. Maybe it was just a bit that like went over my head. I never quite felt like I understood like what the core problem is they were going there to solve in terms of like the actual science they were rooting it in. It just felt like God's turning off the sun, and for some reason nukes will reverse that.
Well, David, it's basically just the same plot as the core. You have to reignite the sun with nukes.
Yes, but they specifically had a stupid-ass plot line in that said it's our fault that happened. Like, that we messed with fracking or whatever, and that caused it to happen.
Like it happened. It happened, and Nukes
I mean, that's fair because it goes with the spiritual bend as well, so that works. Like I'm not saying it doesn't, but that's like my only one little thing is I kept on waiting for the thing of like, why did it happen? Like, what? How do we know this is going to fix it? And they're just like, we're hoping for the best. Which I mean, an object of faith that makes sense. But no, great cast, top, like every single person in that. I'm like, you went on to do great things. If you have not already done that.
When we did it on the show, I was like, there's like a few faces in this, because I hadn't seen it since it came out pretty much, and I'm like, you've become quite famous. You've become quite famous. I know who you are.
Yep,
a lot of that going on.
So, yeah, no, overall, I really enjoyed it. I do think because of that turn, it loses a little bit for me. I didn't completely vibe with it to be the last turn of the movie. Like, I think if it were a thing where it happens and then we continue on with the mission, I would have been better, but it just sticks around for a bit too long in my eyes. So I'm still going to say 7.5, but I think it could have been an 8. It's so close to that.
Yeah. I think the final few moments are quite good again, so it kind of wrestles it back a little bit, and the music's obviously great in that final 10-minute stretch and all that, but
yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think it does dumb it down a little bit, the turn it takes, even though I think if the entire movie was about that thing it turns into, I'd enjoyed it for what it was. So I didn't hate in premise what it was, but it didn't necessarily fit tonally with what the rest of the movie had been doing. So, yeah. Anyway, there you go. That's Sunshine. Yeah, pretty solid movie. So, all right, there you go. That is the Ace. Thank you very much for joining us. We do appreciate it. Keep watching Science Fiction and Computer at Salsa.